Fallout New Vegas is a game shaped by the remnants of ideology, power, and survival. Amid the irradiated dust of the Mojave Wasteland walks Craig Boone, a former NCR First Recon sniper whose story doesn't just unfold through dialogue or side quests, but through the silence in his eyes, the weight of his rifle, and the unmistakable burden he carries in every breath. Boone is not simply a companion, he is a study in moral trauma, an embodiment of guilt, and an echo of real world consequences endured by those sent to fight wars they neither started nor fully understood.
There was a miscommunication. Yeah, well, that's how they wrote it up in the report. We did what we were there to do. A lot of people got killed. That's war. Maybe looking back, you do things differently. But that's not how it works. In the field, you hesitate, you or someone you care about will die. They teach that from day one.
In a world of competing factions, Boone isn't just another figure among many. He is emblematic of the deeply personal cost of war. He bears no medals, boasts no glory, and shies away from praise. His is a journey defined by introspection, pain, and the long, arduous path toward reconciliation with oneself. Boone is what remains when the noise of battle fades and only the questions linger. Boone's past centers on one moment of irreversible violence, Bitter Springs. During what was supposed to be a tactical strike, Boone and his fellow snipers opened fire on what they believed were armed cons. The reality, however, that they had fired upon women, children, and the elderly and wounded due to miscommunication fractured whatever remaining faith Boone had in his chain of command, his nation, and himself. Bitter Springs isn't just a stain on his service record, it's a festering wound, both moral and psychological. And in his eyes, that moment set into motion the tragedy that followed, the death of his wife Carla.
What is it? I don't see what this helps. She's dead. All right. I tracked her down. Southeast near the river. They were selling her. Saw it through my scope. Whole place swarming with legion, hundreds of them, bidding for things no man has a right to. I just had my rifle with me. Just me against all of them. So I took the shot. Yeah. What they do to women, that's worse than death. There was no choice in what I did. It was more like being forced to watch something you can't stop. All this was only ever gonna play out one way. It still is. I don't have any say. All I can do is wait for it to be done with me. What is it? It was gonna be something. If I'd never met Carla, it would have been something else. I should have never gotten close to her. I've got bad things coming to me. You better keep your distance too. Because fair is fair. Better that you don't.
This trauma haunts every aspect of his identity. Bitter Springs is not a moment he can compartmentalize. It has bled into every corner of his being, corrupting joy, poisoning love, and making trust a foreign concept. To Boone, everything that followed was retribution. The world, or some unknown divine force, judged him for his actions and punished him with Carla's death. It's not just sorrow, it's penance.
You don't come out of a tour of duty without regrets. It's best just not to think about it. Yeah, always. Even when I sleep. I don't think so. It won't change anything. And that's a memory I don't want refreshed. Life has a way of punishing you for the mistakes you make. Big enough mistake, punishment can take a while. Mine's not over. A murderer who does good deeds is still a murderer, and he'll still get his judgment. I left the NCR when my tour was up, had enough of war, and decided I was gonna start over. None of it made a difference in the end. Because I'm still alive.
This sequence of trauma isn't just a narrative flourish. Boone is suffering from a textbook case of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Hypervigilance, emotional detachment, guilt, recurring nightmares, it's all there. He speaks in clipped tones, trusts no one, and finds a grim solace only in the clarity of a sniper's scope. But Boone's PTSD isn't just clinical, it's moral. He does not just feel pain, he feels culpability. He believes that the universe, or perhaps something else, some divine force, exacted a personal price for his actions at Bitter Springs. Carla's abduction and death at the hands of himself to stop her from being enslaved into Caesar's Legion isn't just a tragedy, it's a cosmic verdict. Boone becomes a deeply philosophical figure, mirroring real-life soldiers who return from war, questioning not only what they did, but who they became. He represents not just trauma, but transformation. He is not a hero fallen from grace, but a man trapped in an ongoing reckoning. And what makes his story more poignant is how little he expects from others. Boone never demands understanding. He isolates, not out of pride, but out of a belief that he deserves to be alone. His trauma is a quiet scream, buried under the weight of his own conscience. This is the crux of Boone's entire narrative. Fallout New Vegas forces the player to interact with a world steeped in moral ambiguity, and Boone, who walks its sands like a living monument to guilt, acts as a philosophical anchor to those themes. His trauma is not sanitized or tucked neatly into a redemption arc. It sprawls awkwardly, suffocates silently, and lingers in every aspect of his character. You can almost feel it during the quiet pauses in conversation, when the wind of the Mojave howls between words left unspoken. He challenges the player to look beyond the surface, to ask what lies behind every stoic face, every moral decision made in haste or necessity. He reminds us that the consequences of violence ripples far beyond the battlefield. In his world, there are no clean kills, no triumphant endings, only survival and the quiet gnawing aftermath. Boone isn't a war hero. He's a man broken by the very system he once believed in, but it's his brokenness that gives him dimension. He becomes a living contradiction, obedient soldier and moral dissenter, killer and protector, hollow and deeply human. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once warned, "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster." Boone's dilemma is precisely this. The NCR, for all its talk of order and civilization, sanctioned the actions at Bitter Springs. Boone, the dutiful soldier, obeyed, but unlike others, he did not emerge unscathed or callous. He internalized the horror. He did not become a monster, but in doing so, became something else. A man who cannot look in the mirror without flinching. He transformed not in body, but in conscience. Nietzsche's warning takes on a grimly literal meaning in Boone's arc. He fought monsters, but now every reflection whispers, "You're no different." Does Boone deserve redemption? That hinges on a more unsettling question. Can remorse balance the scales of atrocity? Boone's guilt is not performative. He doesn't seek sympathy. He doesn't offer excuses. His regret is raw and isolating. He believes he does not deserve redemption, which, ironically, makes him more deserving of it. Unlike many in the Mojave who double down on ideology, Boone retreats inward. Redemption in Boone's story is not a binary outcome, it is a question mark, a process without guarantee. He does not seek forgiveness from others because he has yet to forgive himself. And yet, the player becomes a silent witness to this internal struggle, perhaps nudging him ever so slightly towards self recognition. The Wasteland does not offer absolution, but it does offer choice, and in Fallout, choice is the closest thing to grace. We live in a world where wars are spoken of in numbers, body counts, statistics, strategic outcomes, but beneath those numbers are human lives. Boone's story is a stark reminder that moral injury can be just as debilitating as physical wounds. His narrative speaks not only to veterans, but to anyone who has had to carry the weight of decisions they can never undo. Boone becomes Fallout's conscience, buried under desert sand, wrapped in regret and moral fog, and like so many real-life veterans, he navigates a world that barely acknowledges his pain, let alone understands it. His story could be that of any soldier who returned from conflict, only to find the real war was the one inside his own head. Through player interaction, we see Boone's capacity for growth. He reacts to your decisions, questions NCR policies, and slowly reveals his internal conflict. If the player takes time to understand him, to walk with him not as a soldier, but as a person, Boone begins to thaw. He never fully forgives himself, but he begins to engage with the world again. That in itself is growth. Real-life soldiers returning from war often speak of the difficulty of reintegration, not just into society, but into humanity. Boone's journey mirrors this, an inching toward the light, not a leap.
I met Carla while I was at the Strip on leave. She said I looked lost. She talked a lot. Suited me fine. I never know what to say. And listening to her, it could make you forget. She stuck out pretty much everywhere we went. Like she was from a different time. A better time. I never met anyone like her.
The companion system in Fallout New Vegas isn't just mechanical, it's relational. And with Boone, those relations take on weight. What starts as a tactical alliance becomes, in time, a fragile trust, a kind of companionship that acknowledges pain without needing to fix it. There's an understated intimacy to Boone's evolution. He doesn't share war stories to impress. He doesn't use his pain as a pedestal. Instead, he opens up in quiet moments, speaking not in grand revelations, but in the kind of haunted reflection that feels too real to be fiction.
Mercy killing is expected of NCR snipers. The Legion likes to torture their prisoners within sight of NCR positions. We get called on to end it. I've had my share. Some of them, you think, maybe you could have gotten them out. Maybe it's not the Legion that got them killed. Maybe it's your orders and you following them. He was a good spotter. Yeah, we were. When Carla went missing, he was the first person I told. He tried to hide it, but I could tell right away. He was glad.
In these moments, players may see echoes of loved ones, veterans they've known, or strangers passed on the street, those who walk with invisible weights pulling at their shoulders. You could draw comparisons between Boone and historical figures like Hugh Thompson Jr., the US helicopter pilot who intervened during the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. Thompson's horror at what he witnessed, American troops killing unarmed civilians, drove him to land his helicopter between the soldiers and the villagers. He later suffered years of ostracization and psychological distress. Like Boone, Thompson stood at the crossroads of obedience and morality and chose the harder path. Unlike Boone, Thompson acted in resistance, Boone acted in obedience, and only later recognized the gravity of that obedience. This recognition matters. His guilt elevates him, not because it redeems him, but because it forces him to engage deeply with questions most of us never dare to ask. What does it mean to be good? What happens when good intentions lead to evil outcomes? What is left of a man when his actions betray his values? Boone is not evil, but he is haunted by the fact that good intentions did not save lives, they destroyed them, and that is a kind of horror too rarely explored in games or in life. In gameplay terms, Boone offers tactical value, his sniper support, his reconnaissance ability, but narratively, he offers something far more significant, a lens into the cost of war. Not the geopolitical cost, but the human one. He challenges the player to consider what loyalty means, what justice entails, and whether redemption is possible after the unthinkable. Boone is a mirror held up to the NCR, to the player, and to ourselves. And like all good mirrors, he does not flatter, he reflects. The choices he makes, the pain he carries, and the way he grapples with morality force the player to examine their own. He's not a character you forget because he's not really a character, he's a question made flesh. How do you live with yourself after something like Bitter Springs? By the end of Boone's companion arc, one can help him come to terms with Bitter Springs. You can accompany him there, stand beside him as he looks down at the bloodstained ground, and perhaps begin to let go.
Canyon 37. That's what the NCR calls the pass down there. It was the Khan's only escape, so we set up here to guard it while the main force attacked from the front. Standing orders were to shoot on sight. Main force got spotted too soon. We heard shooting. Then Khan started coming through Canyon 37 in bunches. It was all wrong, though. Women, kids, elderly. Wounded started coming through, too. We radioed to confirm our orders, but command didn't get what we were seeing. They told us to shoot till we were out of ammo, so that's what we did. Yeah, well, I'm not a soldier anymore. Those rules don't seem like much of an excuse now. Anyway, I don't know why we're here. Thought maybe it'd help me see things better. I'd like to stay here for the night. Think some things over. All right. We won't stay for long.
It's not catharsis, it's not even healing, but it is acknowledgement, and sometimes that is enough. It's the beginning of a new chapter, however fragile. Redemption, in Boone's case, is not about undoing the past, it's about refusing to let that past consume the future. It is the small act of walking forward, burdened but not immobilized. Boone's story is not about grand redemption arcs or dramatic forgiveness. It is about the quieter, lonelier road of enduring one's own conscience. In a world like Fallout, where karma is a mechanic and morality is often reduced to binary choices, Boone reminds us that real atonement is messy, silent, and uncertain. Boone is not a man who wants to be saved. He wants to understand. He wants to know if there is any kind of explanation in which his actions can make sense. In a world that no longer offers absolution, he becomes a pilgrim of guilt, wandering the Mojave in search of a truth he may never find. But in choosing to walk with him, we become part of his search. And through that companionship, Fallout New Vegas asks us the question Boone asks himself every day. What is a good man in a bad world? Not a perfect man, not a righteous one, just a man who, despite his scars, keep moving forward. In Boone, we are shown that guilt is not a weakness. It is the echo of conscience. It is the reminder that we are still human, even when the world no longer demands it. And perhaps that is the cruel beauty of the Mojave, that among the wreckage, the ruin, and the radiation, a man can still choose to be better. Not because he must, but because he can.
We made it through after all. Not sure what to make of that. Guess I did. Guess I figured whatever we could handle. This time the Legion was gonna send more. I should have died here a long time ago. When I spotted the Legionaries today, I thought I understood. things were finally gonna even out. But I'm still here and nothing's changed. If that's how it is, there's not a lot of comfort in knowing it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about all this. I guess they brought us here. One less Legion raiding party running loose now. Never a bad thing, you can take my word for that. Still feels like I'm living on borrowed time. But I don't see any reason not to take a lot more of those sons of bitches with me. You got a point. There's still some things I can do before all this is over.
Thank you for sticking through to the end, my Nuka. This video was supposed to be released back in Memorial Day, but my health and work got in the way, so it was delayed. Still, I hope you enjoyed, and please, if you know any veterans or anyone struggling with mental health issues, give them help and let them know that they're not alone. A big thanks for everyone that gave their time into watching this video. If you enjoyed, I would be honored if you give a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I love each and every single one of you. Have a good one.